Well, I don't know where to start, Randy. First you started talking about me being a model, and I said, man, I don't know what kind of model he was thinking about, but I'm far from that. And the story around Zeb and my son is what he really said when I was waving around, because I was thinking, I hadn't been gone a week, a month, and he's already spent. It wasn't what he bought; it was the idea, because I've been dragging a tape for 40 years, But I said, what's this? He says, I'm a veterinarian. My time is valuable. I ain't got time to drag no tape. These kids, they got to answer for everything. I'm proud to be here. I really am proud to be here. I have great friends in Arkansas. I'm a president of American Farm Bureau because Arkansas and 2 or 3 sister states of yours came out and said, he's the one, we're going to back him, and we're going to back him all fall, all the way through the convention. And y'all was a rock, and I appreciate that. I won't forget it. And of course, I got a big job to represent everybody, but I got good friends in Arkansas, and I know that, and I appreciate it. So thank you for this great opportunity you've given me to be here. This conference has been great. I told Randy, I said, I hope you liked it because I think you're stuck. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, coming to Little Rock and having your representatives come to you in Little Rock's a whole lot easier than going to Washington and going to see them in their offices. One, you get their undivided attention, and I think this has been a great idea. Not that I don't want to discourage you from coming to Washington. We want you there, and you need to do it periodically. But this has been a great idea, and you've done a good job. Bringing Capitol Hill back home was a great title, and I think you need to give them a round of applause for it. That's exactly where I was going. But events like this you've had this week is why I joined Farm Bureau. Because that story that Randy told you, and if my dad would have ever known in 1978 when he sat me down at the table and said, son, you got to get outside your fence rows, he didn't have a clue how far that was going to spread across the United States of America 30 or 40 years later. But he's right. And what you've done by being here on a beautiful day when you could have been planting corn or whatever you're doing on your farm, you chose to be here outside your fences making a difference, not just in your life, but your community's life and your industry's life and your state's life. And that is just admirable to me, and I just salute everyone that volunteers in this organization that does that, because this is the true power that drives American Farm Bureau, state farm bureaus, and county farm bureaus to be what it is. A great general farm organization that's envied by every other membership organization in this country. You just think about it. If you're a politician, where are you going to go first? If you know about Farm Bureau, that's where you're going first. They may not publicly support me, but I want them to leave that meeting talking about me because they touch every community in the state. I don't know of any other organization that really can do that and call on their people. Now, I'm going to talk to you in a few minutes before we get through. We do have some challenges, and I want to talk to you about that as an organization. But getting outside the fence rows, and I salute you for doing that. So let me give you a little update on the transition. It's kind of fun to do that because everybody says, what's going on? Well, I spent, I'm approaching 100 days now, doing exactly what I promised you I'd do. I've been going across the Capitol Hill with policymakers, whether it be in government or working for government. I've been meeting with commodity groups. I have continuous meetings all day long, every day that I'm there, meeting with somebody, building a relationship, trying to make sure that they know who I am, what we stand for. And I tell them, these commodity groups, you need to tell your commodity groups. Every one of these commodity groups, if they're not a member of Farm Bureau, and I don't care what they think about our affiliate companies, if they're not a member of our Farm Bureau, they need to be. Because there's one thing that would keep me as your national president from standing side by side with any commodity group, and that's our policy. And the only way they can affect our policy is to be part of us and be part of the conversation. So if you got a neighbor that's not a Farm Bureau member, you need to go tell him and whatever his beef is that he's not, and pay his membership the first time. And tell him that we need his voice in this organization so that we can unite, and I'm going to talk about uniting in a little bit. So I've been building those relationships. I've been traveling the country seeing some farmers, because what I want to do is I want to go to the countryside and see what our farmers are facing and how the issues are affecting them personally. Because yes, we are a vehicle to get you to the right place to tell your story, but in your absence, I need to be able to stand in front of Congress and say, I've been there. I saw what they are experiencing. I'll tell you what their difficulties are. I don't need to do it by reading it in a pamphlet or just hearing about it. I need to see it with my own eyes so I can tell them that I saw it. Witness it with my own eyes. So I have meetings that we're going to be looking at the infrastructure up and down the river. We're going to be going to the federal grazing lands. I'm going to see immigration in Arizona. I'm going to look at the water issues out in California. We're going to go down to Texas and look at some of the issues they're facing down there. And I'm trying right now to set up appointments up in the Northeast to see what's going on up in that area. I want to be in every area of this country to be able to witness and see what our farmers are actually facing each and every day, because I know the day's coming. Well, it's already come. I've already got my first appointment to testify in front of Congress. It's coming up in a couple of weeks. So I know it's coming. I want to talk from experience. The other thing I've been doing is I've been empowering people by meeting with those commodity groups and challenging them to be a member of Farm Bureau. I've been empowering our staff. See, I'm a true believer in you can't have a staff and then tell them what they can and can't do and not give them tools to work with. You have a staff, you give them a mission, you give them a job title and a job description, you give them the tools that they need to do their job with, and let them prove to you that they can do that job and energize them. So I've been empowering people, and a lot of people say, well, what's surprised you the most? I don't know if I've had any well, there has been a few surprises. And I'll tell you the surprise last, but what's been confirming of what my belief was is that we had really good staff at American Farm Bureau, and we really do. Our people are very well respected across Capitol Hill, and we have data on surveys that prove that. We're very well thought of in the hierarchy of all the lobbyist groups in Washington. We're right up at the top, and we're at the top because we have great staff that are well known all across the Hill. And I've really, it's been described to me, and I agree with this description. The ag group in Washington is like a small town in a big city. They all know each other. They know that they know who they can and can't trust. And our people are very well trusted and very well thought of. And I'm extremely pleased about that. And so you should be proud of that. So let me finish up this update on something else that'll make you proud. 3 days after the election, I was back home trying to get some legal work done at the lawyer's office. My phone rang. And some of you have heard this, but I know got a lot of county presidents in here, and I want you to be proud of your organization. This is not about Zippy Duvall. This is about Farm Bureau. But my phone rang, and I said, I don't think I'll answer that. I'll listen to the message when I come back outside. Well, when I came back outside and listened to my messages, this is what I heard.
This has been Carson calling for Zippy Duvall. Just wanted to congratulate you on your election to President of the American Farm Bureau and appreciate the tremendous work that you've done in this area. It makes all the difference in the world for the rest of us. Keep up the great work, and again, congratulations.
Now, your Farm Bureau is so well thought of that a candidate for the highest office in the greatest nation in the country called to congratulate your new leader. That should make you proud. The very next day, how many of you went to the national convention at the election? Okay, so everybody got a little sip of Zippy water, right? So the very next day, my grandson calls, and he's having his birthday party. So he calls his grandma, and he calls her B, and he says, B, I'm having a birthday party, and you need to bring me some Zippy water. We're going to serve it there. So we ride all the way to Ackworth to take Zippy water to the birthday party, and of course, B-Pop enjoyed it thoroughly. And we was going back home, and my son was in the car with my wife, and she drives because she doesn't trust my driving. Phone rings, and I pick it up, and it says, "Mr. Duvall?" And I said, "That's correct." He says, "Zippy Duvall?" And I said, "That's my name." He says, "Would you have a moment to have a conversation with Donald Trump?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I would." Well, that conversation was about 10 minutes of Donald talking. And he ended up saying, "Well, I'm sure when you get to Washington and get settled in, you'll be endorsing me." And I says, "Well, at Farm Bureau, we don't endorse candidates, but you sure could help yourself in my circles if you talk about agriculture a little bit. I'm going to fix it." So I tell you all that to make you feel proud of your organization, because I would almost bet there's not another organization in this country that could change leadership, and candidates of the most powerful nation in the world for their highest seat presidency would call them and congratulate them. And that's not about Zippy, that's about your Farm Bureau and what it stands for and what people believe in. So let's talk a little bit about policy and issues. You know, I want to talk a little bit about farm economy, and you can't talk about farm economy without talking about market prices and everything. And everybody said, "Well, what can you do about that?" Well, of course, I, as Farm Bureau president, can't do anything about what you're getting for your commodity prices. But what we can do, we can work hard to pass a TPP treaty that'll open up some markets for you. And I know I'm standing in a state where rice has not been, didn't get a good deal out of it. I understand that. Well, this is not a done deal yet, and I know there's some people working on some angles. But every other commodity group is pretty much supporting this TPP, and it does bring $4.4 billion back to the farms and ranches across this country. It is, of course, a protein treaty, where pork and chicken and beef is a big part of it. But to send those animals outside of this country on trade, we got to feed them first, which helps out our grain farmers too. It is a good treaty for agriculture. Now, I can't talk about all the other deals in it, but as far as agriculture goes, according to our economic studies that's been done inside of American Farm Bureau, this is a good deal for us. And we'll continue to watch what happens with rice to make sure that if we can do anything else in that area. Cottonseed. You know, when I got to Washington and there was an opportunity for cottonseed, I told the staff, I said, "We're going to work this hard," and we have worked it hard. But we haven't ran out in front of all of our sister organizations. I made sure that we reached out to the National Cotton Council, and I wanted to know what their plan was. We actually had a 45-minute or hour conversation about what their plan was going to be so that we could be side by side as long as it was within our policy to help them do what they need to do. And we're still right there side by side with them, working on it and encouraging in the places that we can. Cottonseed brought the true Farm Bureau out at the National Convention. For those of you that weren't there during the delegate session, the cottonseed issue came up. And we had probably a 10-minute conversation. And of course, the grain farmers in a certain part of the country said, this is not a good deal, and where are you going to get the money from, and you're going to take it from somebody, give it to somebody else. And the conversation went in full circle, and it came back home to what we're truly about. It came back home to say, if there's an opportunity for a commodity in this country, we're American Farm Bureau, and we ought to be trying to seize that moment. And it voted to pass on the convention floor that we support trying to get cottonseed into as other seed oil in the Farm Bill, or getting it designated in the current Farm Bureau. Of course, none of us want to open up the Farm Bill, but that was a perfect example of this great organization looking past what really might affect them individually and saying, we're about everybody. And we're going to try to seize that moment to help it, which released me to be able to do my job to try to help and work in partnership with National Cotton to get this done. I got high hopes that there's something in the work real soon, and we'll continue to work hard on that. Regulation reform. Of course, we all had to ditch the rule on our minds several years ago, and we can't get it off our mind because it's such a vital thing that's kind of glooming out in front of us. It's like a dark cloud hanging over our head. Of course, it's held up in courts right now. We need to keep hammering home to our constituents, to our representatives, that is going to be very destructive to agriculture. But not only to agriculture, and you got to spread it thinner than that. It's going to affect your county government, your state government, your electric companies. It's going to affect everything in our lives. It's going to change the way everybody can do business in the future. And we've got to keep hammering it home. So at American Farm Bureau level, what we're discussing now, we're working with several senators across the country to go at regulation reform in a different direction and talk about the cost of what regulation reform is costing businesses and counties and states, so that we can have a reform that recognizes that we got to have analysis of how it affects our economy before we go implementing these ridiculous rules that are handed down from whatever department it is in the federal government. We think there's a way to be able to do that, and it's going to take some time to do it, but we do have some congressmen and senators that have open ears to listening to us do that. So I'm going to end up on issues and give you a challenge. Just think about what's fixing to happen in the farm economy right now. We're fixing to test this farm bill to its limits. We're going to know really soon whether or not this farm bill goes far enough to create enough safety net to keep American agriculture through a very difficult time. And that's basically what it is. In good times, it shouldn't cost the government anything. In bad times, it should stabilize us enough to get to the next year, to the next crop, to a better environment. And that's what that safety net should do. We're fixing to test it to its limits. The next farm bill will be written in 2019. It is not too early to start having that conversation. We need to be evaluating what we're experiencing right now. We need to have on the ground in our counties where the strength and brain power is in this organization. We need to be having those conversations right now on what we need to do to tweak the next farm bill or create in the next farm bill to create that true safety net. And we need to start educating people as soon as we know what that is. And that's my challenge to you as Farm Bureau leaders. It's my challenge to other commodity groups. And we don't need one commodity group telling American Farm Bureau this is a deal and we want you to support us. We need to be at the table with them, helping figure out what the deal is. But the best place to do that is at home, folks. In your commodity groups and your Farm Bureau groups at home, rather than meeting apart, meet together and let's talk about these issues, because our next policy that we support in the Farm Bill is going to come from the grassroots. It's where it always comes from. So we need to start now, because we need 2 years to educate everybody. If we don't, we're going to be playing catch up, and this is too important of a deal for generations to come for us to be playing catch up. We've got to be proactive, not reactive. No one in Washington has the experience that you have and the understanding of markets that you have. They can't build a farm bill that's going to be suitable to create a good safety net. We have got to form that farm bill. And that's a challenge for you as county leaders. And this is very serious business, and we want you to take that challenge and help us start making that step so that we can educate the people in the future. One last thing we've been focusing on is technology. And I'm getting a little bit more excited about it. Now, I come from animal agriculture, and as far as technology and our tractors and everything, I haven't had the opportunity to experience that. So I've learned a lot, and I'm just beginning to scratch the edge of it, and a lot of y'all are way out in front of me with that, and you have a great wealth of knowledge there. So you just bear with me when I talk about this, because we're fixing to have a big data summit in Washington tomorrow, a day after tomorrow. And what this summit is to discuss the 2 years of work that American Farm Bureau has led the industry in talking about big data. When State Farm Bureau started receiving the calls about, you know the agreements that you agree with on your phone when you take on a program or app or anything like that? Well, when y'all buy those technologies at your John Deere dealership or your technology dealers, you have to sign that agreement. Well, it's always in fine print. We really don't ever know what it says, and we read it 2 or 3 weeks after we sign it. So State Farm Bureau's got to getting phone calls about, well, what am I really signing? Do we really know what we're signing? And American Farm Bureau took the lead in having that conversation with other industry groups to talk about what we need to do to make sure that you understand that. So they got together and they created a set of principles that could monitor or be used by a farmer to say, this is a technology that I need to be using because it falls within a set of principles that have been put together. That set of principles, to put it on the ground and make it work, going to create an ag data transparency evaluator, and it's almost like a housekeeping seal. So if it falls within the principles that the industry says that it tells you can trust it, then that stamp would be put on it, and you could evaluate it through that ag data transparency evaluator. And then we joined the Ag Data Coalition. That's right now in the beginning effort of creating a repository for all the data that you collect on your farm. Because what that does is, see, we believe, our policy says that you own that data, and I believe that. So what we got to decide is how we best collect it, how we best store it, and how we best use it. And in this repository that's going to be put up, you will own it, you will store it, you'll be able to transfer it to who you give permission to transfer it to, you'll be able to manage it, and you'll be able to control it. And it has nothing to do with any of the big companies like Monsanto or Delta Pine or John Deere or any of the other companies. This repository is independent of any of them, and you totally own it. And we're going to be talking about that, some more about that at this new summit, and we got industry leaders coming in from all over the country to talk about that on Thursday, and I'm excited about learning more about it and to meet those industry leaders and develop a relationship with them. But I'm really Farm Bureau proud that we took the lead in that conversation because no one else was doing it. And I'm looking forward to what that's going to do for our farmers in the future. So let me close by talking about one of the other things that ran on, and that's unity. You know, we're less than 2% of the total population in this country. And we probably do the most important job of anybody in this country. Now, that's not watering down anything else that anybody else does, but what we do touches people's lives 3 times a day. The people that are fortunate enough that can afford it. We did a survey across the country, hired a group to do a survey because we talking about branding and everything. And we wanted to find out what people thought about Farm Bureau and American Farm Bureau. Well, what we discovered is it's well thought of in Washington. It ranks very high on the totem pole when it comes to lobbyist groups. But where we fail is our grassroots. A lot of them just don't know what we're all about. We got to find some way to link American Farm Bureau with our grassroots. Now, they know who their county is, and they respect them, and they understand the work that they do. Most of them know about their State Farm Bureau and what they do. But when it comes to the national American Farm Bureau, they know very little about what we do. American Farm Bureau doesn't do it all. A State Farm Bureau doesn't do it all. And obviously, a County Farm Bureau doesn't do it all. It is a team effort. And we got to find some way to communicate back to our grassroots what we do for them at the American Farm Bureau level. And let me tell you why that's important. Other membership organizations like NRA, AARP, you name them, when they have a call to action on an issue in Washington, they generate tens of thousands of comments in a matter of just days. We should be able to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not doing that. No one has the organizational structure that is granulated as ours. But they can do it, and we aren't doing it. We have to do that. We have to be able to communicate with our grassroots to a point to where when we ask you, and all of us are toting them, when we ask you that we need for you to speak to this issue, that you take 2 minutes of your time on your iPhone or your phone and respond to a request. Whether it be from the American Farm Bureau, whether it be through your state Farm Bureau, whether it be your state through your county, we got to make time to stop, pull that rubber glove off that we're walking behind cows with, and respond. Or between the ends of the row on the tractor being guided by GPS and respond. Or stop on the way to town to pick up a part and respond. We got to do that. And this is why. I should never, as your national president, be called by a congressman and say, I support you, I want to help you, but I need some cover. That should never happen. And I've had that phone call. We have got to respond. So that leads me into my last final comments. And when I got up this morning, people in Georgia know this about me, but I do a devotion every morning. It's just amazing to me how God works. He knows what to talk to you about. I don't know how he knows how to put it on that page. It says March 28th. I don't know how he knows how to put it on that page in my devotion book. But sometimes it just glares at me what he's trying to tell me with it. But this devotion this morning is your advisors can make or break you. Now, we are, as Farm Bureau, we're advisors to our representatives of setting ag policy. Those guys those people you talked to today that took time out of their campaigning on the Easter break to come and see you because you're important, you're advisors to them to help make ag policy that fits us and makes it all work. I have a story about advisors and how they make or break you. My other son, who's Vincent Merle Duvall Jr., that's my real name, and he's a Black Hawk pilot, like Randy says. Well, he spent 17 months in Iraq, flew 119 combat missions. He would never tell you that. I had to pry it out of him. He very seldom called home, but occasionally when he called home when his heart was heavy about something. Or he was, you do all these things off adrenaline all day long, and then you lay down in the bed and the whole bed shakes because you realize what you did that day. And you got to share it with somebody. So occasionally he'd call his daddy. And he called me one night and he said, Daddy says, we had an advisor that works in amongst us. And he helps advise us on certain things that we put missions together with. Well, they had met and they knew where the next day's mission was going to go. And the reason they discussed that was because they was trying to find a safe place to land on the mission the following day. He said he was scheduled to be the first helicopter off the ground the next morning to go to that safe area. Well, when they were flying that day, they asked them to fly by that area on the way back from their last mission as of that day to see what it looked like before they would fly back in there next morning. Well, when they flew by, the leading helicopter was shot down, and everybody on it was killed. So that night, he calls me. And he said, Dad, says, you don't know who you can trust. The advisor that they had told them where they were going to come, and knew they were going to fly by that afternoon to check on it. He said, Daddy, I was supposed to be the first helicopter on the ground that morning. But I wasn't, because we never got to the mission. The people that we're in their inner circles, and we're advisors to them, we owe it to them to have the tough conversations at our grassroots level. And then we owe it to them to deliver it to them in a way that they can support us and we provide them cover. Because they're fighting a battle for us each and every day. The scripture that went along with that came from Proverbs 11:14. It says, where there is no counsel, the people fall. But in multitudes of counselors, there is safety. We need to provide that safety for the people that are fighting the battles for us, whether it be in the military, whether it be in Congress, or whether it just be out there trying to tell the true story of agriculture. We need to be their advisors, and we need to have their backs, and we need to provide them the safety that they deserve to fight those battles for us. I want to thank you, Arkansas Farm Bureau, for being what a really true Farm Bureau ought to be. Passionate, energized, advisors in the inner circle, and got everybody's back. That's what Farm Bureau is all about. But we're not just about agriculture. We're about America. This is a great country. And yeah, we're in a difficult time. But we still have men and women that are risking their life today so that we can meet here freely, so that we can farm tomorrow, so that we can go to our church next week and worship the God that we believe in. If they can do that, I know that Farm Bureau can do what we got to do to make sure that we are good advisors, good partners, good supporters, passionate leaders, and whatever it takes to keep America great. You are what makes America great, and I am Farm Bureau proud to be your president. Thank you.